Now let's return to this developing story in Eastern Europe where protests and arrests are continuing right across Russia. Is it too early to forecast the beginning of the end for Vladimir Putin? Let's ask the foreign editor at The Australian, Greg Sheridan. He joins us now from Melbourne. Greg, you're very kind on this public holiday. Thank you. Is this the beginning of the end for Putin and war in Ukraine, do you think?
Chris, it's great to be with you. There's no public holidays for journalists, as you know. Look, I thought your analysis is very powerful, Chris, but I'm not quite so optimistic. I don't think China has really abandoned him. A ceasefire would suit Putin at the moment. He says now his core aim is to liberate Donbas. He currently controls most of Donbas. If he could stop the fighting before Ukraine gets any more of its territory back, that would probably suit him quite well. So a dirty deal that allows him to stay in place with 20% of Ukraine's territory and start hostilities again down the track when he's got his breath back is not necessarily against his interests. The demonstrations are very encouraging. You've got to pay tribute to the courage of those young Russians. But, you know, the Russian state is very good at repression. And, you know, a lot of those people being arrested are being conscripted straight into the army. So Putin is under more pressure than he's ever been. He's very dangerous because he has 5,000 nuclear weapons. And if he thinks he's going to go, that's the end of the universe for him. And he's much more likely to go with a bang than a whimper. His instinct is always to escalate. I just think it's incredibly in flux, very, very unpredictable at the moment.
That address to the nation, it stepped over the line, Greg, in so many ways, didn't it?
It surely did. I mean, he made blatant nuclear threats. First of all, half of it is completely deranged. You know, Vladimir Zelensky, a democratically elected, as it happens, Jewish president of Ukraine, referred all the way through as a neo-Nazi in Putin's speech. Putin said in his speech that Western leaders had talked openly about using nuclear weapons against Russia. That's just untrue. No Western leader has ever said anything remotely like that. He says the West provoked this, you know, caused this conflict. He said that the Ukrainian government had conducted a genocide against its opponents within Ukraine before Russia intervened. So a lot of the speech is completely deranged. But that has been Putin's style. I mean, this is a more extreme version of the Putin that we've had for 20 years. I mean, Putin, remember, a few years ago, he assassinated Russian dissidents in London very, very openly without really making any effort not to be seen. I mean, this has been an outrageous dictatorship for a long time. God bless the Ukrainians for their courage, their magnificent will, but I don't know where it goes from here. You might get a dirty deal, you might just get prolonged, you know, fighting, or, you know, the Russian army might break and run away, and then Putin would be in a moment of acute existential drama, I think.
The fact that there are, according to the human rights group in Russia, 38 different cities where protests have taken place is probably linked to the fact that the Russian army has lost 85,000 bodies, soldiers gone. So just about every neighbourhood in the whole of Russia knows someone or knows someone who has died in fighting. That surely has motivated those people to get on the streets and protest.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I'm a bit dubious about the 85,000 figure. We haven't really got a clue how many Russian soldiers have died in Ukraine. I think it's pretty clear it must be more than 10 or 15,000, and there might be another 50,000 casualties. But I don't think we've seen the mass amount of bodies that you would see if 80,000 had died. But nonetheless, your point is right, Chris. Dead Russian soldiers means lots of grieving families. However, again, I don't want to be the skunk of the party all the time, but dictatorships are very good at stirring up intense nationalistic hatreds to justify very extravagant war behaviour. And Putin, like the Chinese government, has been cultivating extreme and unreasonable nationalism right across Russia for a long time. Most of these demonstrations, they're magnificent, but most of them are in affluent cities where a kind of westernised Russian upper middle class lives. Amongst the ethnic minorities, amongst the down-at-heel rural towns, Putin is still something of a hero because he provides economic subsidies to these people and he's an ultra-nationalist. I do think he's in a lot of trouble. I think that's absolutely right. But I just think it's incredibly in flux and unpredictable right now.
Greg Sheridan, thank you very much for your analysis. Appreciate it, mate.